What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Join alongside Emilio in Tennessee. Here to talk some Green Bay Packers this evening as we're closing in on game day. Obviously coming up on Sunday afternoon. Well, actually right around noon Central Time as the Packers are set to face the Jacksonville Jaguars. First things first. So Emilio, how was your day, man? How we doing? We good to go? Closing in on game day here.
Oh yeah, excited! Nice, beautiful day out with 70 something, some breeze. I was sweating a little bit. Yanked a tree out, basic stuff. Just trying to get things winterized. It seems like it's happening early this year for sure.
Yeah, not that kind of tree. You wacky backer heads. We're just talking about normal landscape and stuff.
Right.
Eric Sutherland's in the chat. He perked up just now. I guarantee it.
He did.
And it's pretty cool. We got Thursday night football on tonight. We'll kind of give you guys updates as we go through the show here as the Minnesota Vikings are taking on the LA Rams. Sounds like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are playing, I believe. So that's going to be really, really interesting there for sure. Let's see. We got Jeff in the chat. Jeff Silkey says, Half was so awesome on the podium today, as usual. Yes, sir. And I didn't grab any of the sound bites, but I'm open to talk about it. If you guys want to put in the chat, like your biggest takeaway from that, things you're excited about with Half, we'll hit on it for sure. I know you listened to it, Emilio. You were kind of doing some drops there earlier as we first logged on here.
Yeah.
What was your general takeaway from Half at the podium today? Anything stick out to you?
Well, I love that he just came flat out and said, me and Saleh basically talked, every single week. It's not like it's a weird thing seeing him in the hallway. I'm sure Hafley knew before, after Matt got off the phone with him, he probably called Half and was like, hey man, I'm coming over. It's exactly one of his best friends in coaching. And they ask, he's like, if you have a good idea on a blitz, why would I not take that and try to use it? If it's going to be possible for our players in a situation or that specific situation, let's go. I mean, he's here to win. WIN. That's all he cares about. And I absolutely love that because the players buy it. You know what I mean? It's not like he's not just messing around for fun. And you see when he's talking, he's like, all right, well, I'm up in the booth calling my plays while the defense is on the field, calling my plays. All right, we got him off the field. He's like, I don't even get to watch Matt cook. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't even get to watch the offense do. He's sitting there looking at an iPad for the next 5 minutes while we're wondering what Jay Love's going to do and who's going to catch the next ball. And he's over there scouting out what play I'm going to call up, this, and that. And then by the time he looks up, he's back on defense. So it's not like it ever stops for him. And I just love that determination that he has.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, man. And again, he's definitely not threatened by anyone. As Ron Sample says here, Half ain't threatened by anyone. He's been a head coach, and he's approaching this from a head coach's perspective, right? And I know he's a head coach in college, and it's very different from the NFL. I got you. But when you see things from that global perspective and then you step back into a coordinator role, I can only imagine. It's like, Amelia, you're a business owner. I'm a business owner. Both run landscaping businesses. You imagine going from running a landscaping business. Mine's been open now for going on 14 years. And then all of a sudden me stepping back and being an employee for a landscaping company. Oh my God. Like it's going to be a totally different perspective.
You're flipping tables, definitely.
Yeah. You talk about employee of the year because you know exactly where the hiccups are, what that dude's going through. And anytime you have an employee, or in this case, I guess an employee, technically a part of your coaching staff, who can kind of look at it, he can have Matt LaFleur's back from a sense of, all right, man, I've been there, done that. I know what he's going through there. Let me try to steer it in this direction, or let me try to take a little off his plate there. And now you add Robert Saleh to the mix, who's going to be able to do that for not only LaFleur on the offensive side of the ball, with giving him, some kind of perspective from a defensive coach's stance, but also chiming in occasionally with Half and being able to grab stuff. So Matt Schneidman tweeted this out. Jeff Hafley says Robert Saleh is one of his best friends in coaching and would welcome suggestions from him. Has stayed in contact with him, worked as Saleh's DB coach in 2018 with the Niners. If you guys remember when Coach Hafley was hired, the first thing we did on this show was we went immediately to the tape from the Jets. And we always talked about, you can look at his tape at Boston College, but he also referred to in a sit-down interview that we played back in, when we very first, signed Hafley, when we hired him. He sat down in an interview and said it's way different coaching college ball than it is coaching in the pros.
And he's got to talk to people that are in the league.
Absolutely. And that's what he said. As I talked to my friends in the NFL, and every time that we talked about that, I made it a point to say he's talking about Robert Saleh. He's probably talking about Pete Carroll as well as kind of a mentor type, I would imagine. He's talking about all these people that he's crossed paths with over the years, and that's what's going to play a role in how he builds his defense. And I just love how they came out. There was a lot of noise around the pass rush, and they're not being aggressive enough. And what happened to this pass rush? This is on scheme, blah blah blah. And he didn't panic. It was just, we know what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to win football games. I could care less about the sack numbers. I could care less about the pressures. It's what do we need on this specific play for this specific drive, for this specific situation in this specific game that we're locked into right now, because every game plays out different. I was listening to Ryan's pod earlier today, and he was talking about how we mention the middle eight all the time, right? We always talk about the middle eight. And he was like, I really don't understand exactly what that means. I know what the middle eight is, but I don't know the importance of it, this and that. That did come from Belichick. So I'll explain, he was saying I need to check and see where he got it from, talking about me. That's Bill Belichick 101. They look at the game. They prep all week long. And their goal is to make the other team play left-handed. And they being Belichick's coaching staff, which this runs rampant through the entire league. This is just coaching 101 when it comes to the NFL. You want that team to play left-handed. So you find out, who are they distributing the ball to on crucial third downs, right? What are they doing to move the sticks? What are they doing when they're in the red zone? All these things, you take it into this big pot. And he looks at the game as the first quarter, your goal in the first quarter, and this is Belichick talking, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here. The first quarter, the goal is, all right, you've got your openers based off of your 4-game saturation in which you've watched scouting that team. All right. If your openers are working, then you keep digging into that game plan. If they are not doing what you expect them to do, the first quarter is all about gathering information. The second quarter is making an adjustment. And then after the second quarter, or toward the end of the second quarter, it's controlling the middle eight. What you do when you control the middle eight, if you win that outright score in the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half, you're controlling momentum. There are some people, stat nerds, that don't believe momentum's a real thing. Just like they don't think the locker room chemistry is a real thing. Oh, the chemistry is good if you're winning. It's bad if you're losing. That's true, but these are real human beings. And if you just go in there and try to put talent in a locker room and go, okay, let's make this happen, it doesn't always operate like that, right? So it's team building 101. It's another thing I got from Belichick. You'll see me tweet out all the time when something happens on the team where you can see this team is like really lifting each other up and bonding. I always say we're building a team. We're not collecting talent. That's Bill Belichick 101. So with the middle eight, it's all about controlling that momentum, grabbing the momentum, keeping the momentum into the second half. So first quarter, you're gathering information. Second quarter, you're making an adjustment. You're working through the middle eight to control the momentum. And then he always says the fourth quarter is a standalone game. You've got all this information compiled from 3 quarters. To hell with what you thought you needed to do in the first quarter, to hell with what you were going to do in the second quarter, and even in the third. This is a standalone game. Here's what they're doing. Here's the adjustment we need to make to win the freaking ball game. I don't care if it involves sacks. I don't care if it involves throwing across the middle, which was a big argument for the longest time. Like, it comes down to, how do we win this specific game? That's the most important aspect. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's where the middle eight came from. So
it definitely does. It definitely does. And Hafley talks about, his adjustments. It's not a second half adjustment kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's not that he's adjusting it just at halftime when he runs down. What do you say? He takes a golf cart to the elevator, goes down the elevator, has to sprint into the room. Then after he sprints into the room, he talks to his coaches for a minute, talks to the players for 2 minutes, maybe writes something on the board, and they're out of there. So it's like, it happens so fast. He's like, those adjustments are things that I'm doing up in the box, minute by minute. That's why he's looking at the iPad after. That's why he doesn't get to see what Matt does and the offense is doing until the day after. So I think that it's huge that he does that, and he says that's why it's nice that he has that extra time up in the booth to take those notes and be able to churn all that out.
And that's like this big misconception when it comes to the game of football, is like, we think all these guys are just like constantly communicating, and they're, from a fan's perspective, you kind of see, okay, that might be the case, but let me give it to you from a player's perspective. I'm good friends with a guy. I won't say his full name, but his name's Vince. Okay, I call him Vinny. He played for Belichick. All right, so he played for Belichick, then he went on to play with the Kansas City Chiefs. He actually played in the Canadian League a little bit. Great dude, one of the most stand-up guys you ever meet. And I love asking people this. I asked Mike Wall this. That's where the infamous answer of how you arrive at confrontation determines how you handle confrontation. I love asking former players, hey, what is something that fans don't understand about the game? Give me one nugget that's like, man, they just don't get this is how. And his thing, Vince said, was I think they think that we're always together. We're always like this. Every meeting we'll have the whole teams together. Every time we're practicing the whole teams together. He said it's not the case at all. We break off and go with our position coaches, and we go with our position groups, and we go and sit down and study film with them, and we're working in our own little section while these other aspects of the game, these other groups are in their own thing. He said and then you come together collectively. That game plan is put together by the head honchos, right. And then that information is spread out through the position coaches. Here's what I want you guys to accomplish. There's no time for everybody to sit around, pat each other on the ass and sing kumbaya. It's get to work, study this, learn it, understand exactly what it means, and now get yourself in peak prime condition to go out there and execute what we need to do. And here's the thing. The game plan could be crap. That's a wash that week. The players might not be prepared that week. That's a wash that week, right? Like all it takes is one or two minute details going haywire, and you're losing by 30 points in the NFL, no matter how good or bad the opponent is.
Right.
It's really that's what I love about the game is the difference between the worst team in the league and the best team in the league is so minute, and it's what makes every Sunday. It's why I always say, Amelia, they send a kicker out there to kick a game winner. I'm like, I couldn't walk out there without falling down. I'd be so nervous. You know what I mean? But you're prepped, you're battle tested, you're ready to go. I asked my brother that because he was in the first Gulf War. I'm like, man, when you're over there, because he had, their camp got hit with Scud missiles a lot and stuff when he was over there, and they were out in the desert in Saudi Arabia. And he said, when you're with your guys and we're all trained, we went through all that training and everything, and we're sitting out there, we're a collective unit. It ain't even a big deal. Missiles whistling overhead, no big deal. You're trained for it, man. You're lockstep with the guy next to you. That dude ain't going to let you down. Right. It's just out of sight, out of mind. It's read and react now. I think there's a lot of parallels to be drawn with kind of the art of war in football. Obviously, it's been spoken about time and time again over the years. It ain't this much serious, obviously, as wartime situations, but it is probably the closest thing to how a sport being militaristic, I guess you could say. And to me, there's something romantic about that a group of people, both men and women, can get together, put all their differences aside. Don't matter where you grew up, don't matter where you came from, don't matter if you had a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. None of that matters. All that matters now are the people that's around you and how you're going to protect each other and accomplish the goal. And that's football, man.
That's whoever's wearing that helmet and that jersey with you right now, you're going against the other team. You got 60 minutes to do it, about 3 hours of time, and let's just make it happen. You get 1 week at a time to go into that battle, and you got to handle your business. And that's what I love about what Matt preaches, what Haf preaches, and it really just blends so well together that the message is across. I mean, you see it in the locker room, the post-game locker room. I mean, you got inside jokes, you got people screaming. It's not a bored locker room.
Right.
And they got that excited for two specialists and a coach to get the game ball. I mean, that's energy right there.
Absolutely. 2-0 for this in the chat said, I keep calling Darnold Sam Bradford, bro. I have done it 500 times since the Vikings signed him. I'm doing the same thing. And every time it comes out of my mouth, I go, I know that ain't right. Who is Sam Bradford? That's obviously the old Rams quarterback.
Throwback.
Yeah. Ron Sample says, also get a kick out of him talking about halftime not being what fans think it is. There you go. That's what you were talking about. Fred McFarley says, no one hesitated for a minute when Aubrey Pleasant took on the same role under similar circumstances in 2022. This is a good thing. There you go.
That's in regards to Saleh coming over and helping the offense.
Right. John in the chat says, I like what Hafley said about rushers are sometimes used to make sure running backs or tight ends don't go out on a route. Didn't think about that before. And that's what we've been trying to show on the tape. And listen, we get roasted for it. That's why some people refer to us as the tape guys, and you'll hear us joke about it. We refer to them as the spreadsheet guys because they just don't want to accept the fact that it's not just he's rushing the quarterback. That's what he's doing. There's so many different layers to it, and it all has to marry up with both the mid coverage and the deep coverage. It's got to marry up with what they think the timing of the drop is going to be of the quarterback. It's got to marry up with the top three choices of running plays that they may potentially run. How are they going to scheme that out? Is it going to be gap scheme? Is it going to be zone? Is it going to be duo? They're going to have pulling guards, GT, just G. Are they going to be sifting? All these things come into play when you're putting that game plan together. It ain't just, why isn't Rashawn Gary getting to the quarterback? That's not defense in the NFL. It's just simply not.
Yep. And to Karmazov, I would assume his point. He Hafley there. You gotta put your players in a position, but to do that, he's got to be comfortable with them. And I think that he is comfortable, like he was saying, rotating the D lines or him and Matt. You got to be comfortable with being able to rotate those guys. You got the offensive line out there, 65 plays. If you only have 2-star DNs, all right, they're going to play 65, 60 plays and get five reps off when it's, first down on a run play or something. But being able to rotate guys, and he said, well, we're at 25 to 45 snaps per, and like that hockey line change we've been talking about, the fact that it's actually coming to, the only reason that is because you can trust them to not blow it when they're out there. You can't just put scrubs out there and say, all right, we're gonna let you play just because we need to give them a break. No, we're gonna put talent out there and stop them, with a next set of guys, not a lower tier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Let's see here. Rel in the chat says he also texted McKinney, don't get bored, and gave him credit to the last 2 games opposing quarterbacks haven't thrown the ball deep. That's another thing, is like some people would look at that game and go, yeah, McKinney got the sack, but what are you doing coverage? They're not even testing him right now. They've learned their lesson, right?
That's what they were kind of asking. It's like, all right, he hasn't gotten his hand on, he hasn't caught a ball in 2 games. I know that's, it's not good, but like, what has he done to help the defense in that time? Well, 1, we haven't thrown deep. 2, he got a sack. I mean, these explosive plays don't have to be just picks. And and Hafley even said, I've been around Revis. He's been around Sherman, right? So when they don't throw the ball to you, that's a sign of respect, the ultimate sign of respect. And that's where he's saying you can't get bored back there, because at some point they're going to have to throw it. They're going to try to throw it deep again. They're going to try to force it your way. You got to be ready.
Definitely. No doubt about it. So one of the reasons why obviously the defense is playing at such a high level here, obviously Evan Williams, PFF Green Bay Packers had tweeted out Evan Williams, 89.4 PFF grade, the highest graded rookies so far this season. So I believe he is number 1 in the entire National Football League, the highest graded rookie player. I think that's both offense and defense in the NFL. Boy, it sounds like Goody might have gotten the steal of the draft here, Emilio. And again, I was hesitant on him. Like, he was kind of low on my board. And the main reason was the pass defense aspect. All over the tape, you've seen him playing the run and playing aggressive. They seen something in our boy Evan Williams here to really go after him, because obviously they traded up to get him. And I honestly think he probably crushed any interview process that they walked him through, because when you hear him talk at the podium, man, that dude, he just seems like he is all ball. He's upbeat. He seemed like he's really coachable. There's nothing about him that you go, listen, let's be honest. Can we be real for a minute? You hear some players talk and you go, ooh, they're not that intelligent. World-class athletes, but you could just tell they can't communicate well. They can't, some of them come from a horrible upbringing, and it's just like their physical talent and ability and them busting their ass in the weight room and conditioning is what got them to where they're at. Now they got to try to learn. Other guys, you hear them talking, you go, that dude's sharp as a tack. Right. Evan Williams is a dude that's sharp as a tack. And another one,
Bullard.
Xavier McKinney, sharp as a tack. Javon Bullard was another one. They said, man, his football IQ is through the roof.
And that's it. It's something that's not on the stat sheet. You're not going to see it in the RAS. You're not going to see it in their hand size or their wing spread, whatever. That's the mental aspect that who was it? Drew D was saying, it's the interviews are the one thing fans media can't get a good handle on in the draft. I think that's a good point, just because it's not anything that we can cumulative put on the board. we were talking about it this past season. Like, all right, if we find captains, let's put a star next to them because Packers like captains. They like that leadership. But we're never going to be in those rooms where they're meeting those players. We're never going to be there, inside the meeting rooms at the Senior Bowl, things like that. That's where you can get the extra level to make the choice. All right, that guy gets it. He's gonna be here. He's got the RAS. Maybe he doesn't have it, but he's got that intellectual with him, and it's worth it to us.
Yeah, I completely agree. Cody Krupp, shout out to Cody Krupp on Twitter at Cody WKRUPP. Tweeted out this video, said Robert Saleh repping the Packers gear for day 2. Go Pack Go. How awesome, man. Matt LaFleur to have his best friend on his coaching staff with him. And what I love about Saleh, every time you see him at Packers practice, you don't see him talking at all. You notice that?
He's just taking it all in.
He's observing everything, man.
You watch him watch J Love's throw right here at the beginning. All right, drop step. Nice arc. Perfect. All right, let's see what else is going on at practice. It's like business. Matt probably yanked that sweatshirt out of the closet and said, all right, here, you can take this one. You can wear the pants you wore yesterday, and we're good to go.
Exactly. So I'm excited to have Hafley on the staff, man. Obviously, I think it's absolute, or not Hafley, but Hafley too, but Robert Saleh on the staff. I think it's absolutely awesome to get another set of eyeballs of someone who's seen it from the head coach's perspective. I mean, you got multiple former head coaches now, multiple former defensive coordinators as well. Derek Ansley's another guy. Jeff Hafley is getting all the credit, and I think it's rightfully so. He's getting a ton of credit for what he's done to this defense. But when you look at the complete 180 that's happened with the coverage grades, with the coverage tape this year, and how well not just the DBs but the linebackers are actually covering and playing within the scheme, you've really got to look to Derek Ansley as well, who obviously is the defensive backs coach, the passing game coordinator, if I remember correctly. That dude was the DC with the Chargers last year. So he's seen it from the perspective of a defensive coordinator. Now he's back to a position coach. So he knows what Coach Hafley's going through on a weekly basis, right? So all that stuff, it really marries up well together. But again, love seeing Saleh in the house here, obviously sporting the Packer gear. So when it came to week 7, I don't think we hit on this earlier in the week, just a kind of quick refresher. I know we hit all the grades, but we didn't hit this kind of zoned in here on the highest graded players for week 7 against the Texans. Number 1, Eric Wilson, 82.7. Number 2, Romeo Doubs at a 76.4. Number 3, Rashawn Gary at a 74.0. Zach Tom at a 72.6. And Jordan Love at a 72.2. So really, really exciting stuff there to see Eric Wilson and Rashawn Gary as 2 of the top 5 graded players. And then obviously Eric Wilson among linebackers in week 7, according to PFF, Green Bay Packers on Twitter, 82.7 PFF grade. That was 7th best among all linebackers in the league for week 7. 88.8 pass rush grade. That was 3rd best amongst all linebackers in the National Football League. 2 tackles for a loss. That was tied for 4th. 3 pressures was tied for 3rd. 2 sacks was 1st in the entire NFL. And then 1 forced incompletion was tied for 1st. This dude's playing like a legit top 5 linebacker in the league. We got to keep him on the field. Same thing goes with Edgerrin Cooper. And we're going to get to the injury report here in a minute and talk about how Quay returned to practice today. Now, we'll see if he clears concussion protocol. But, man, I'm done with the whole, well, he's a first-round pick. He's got to be out there. Like, put the best players on the field until they prove otherwise. Hey, am I wrong there, man? I mean, I know you got draft capital tied up, but.
Yeah, that's tough. Just because I'm not sure how Matt had said it, but I thought he said that he was still in protocol, but maybe he said he just cleared protocol. But yeah, Hafley even said, Eric Wilson, he trusted him to be the one to go out there. He said he talks to him when, maybe when first team's out there in practice, he's talking to Eric Wilson about the play. He's relayed calls to him in before. Eric Wilson has had the dot on before. He's a veteran. He said that he can communicate well. He's vocal. He knows other people's jobs. Like being a middle linebacker, you have to know your deal. You have to know your end. You have to know your end, your tackle, your will backer. If you had, a slot safety come down or a slot corner, you should probably know where they are. You need to know the coverage. He's got to be on it and be able to make adjustments as needed. And I think he did a great job. And I know that it's not a whole ton of, plays to get him to that PFF grade. I know that his numbers are down, but even in that small sample, he's performing. You can have a small sample and still be performing badly. So I think we're really lucky. And I know they asked Matt about it. Has this been, the most kind of depth that you've had at linebacker? He said, yeah, I'd probably say so, which is true. I mean, the fact that you couldn't have injuries whenever, it's same with our D-line. If you have an injury, we're not panicked and needing to go, sign a free agent or anything like that. We have it's starters in waiting. We don't have second stringers on this team. We have starters in waiting. And I think that's so true.
Yeah. Very well said. So again, Eric Wilson, just somebody to kind of keep an eye on there for sure, man. Fred McFarley says he, as in Quay Walker, is still in protocol as of today. That's the way I understood it too. It wasn't like a slam dunk he was going to play this week. The way that typically works is you look at around Friday. The key thing is, when does he leave concussion protocol, right? Typically they take it up till Friday, and then Saturday. Knowing this coaching staff, they'll probably want to use that fog of war approach and not actually show whether or not he's clear until the last possible second. That way the other team can't kind of game plan around it as much as you can game plan anyway. But here was Quay at practice today. Obviously a concussion isn't going to limit anything else. They're just waiting for him to clear that protocol. And my man looks good, looks fired up here, hitting the sled, punching the sled, and then knocking the ball out of the coach's hands there as well. Wes Hokowitz tweeted this out on Twitter and said, practicing for the Packers Thursday. Linebacker Quay Walker, center Josh Myers, guard Elton Jenkins, and defensive lineman Devontae White. Cornerback Corey Ballantyne was the only non-participant this week. Now, Devontae White, I think he had said yesterday, Emilio, correct me if I'm wrong, he said he anticipates playing. It sounds like he's good to go. If that's the case, guys, he had 10 pressures, according to Next Gen Stats. He had 10 pressures, and he hasn't played in forever. That dude would be leading the team in pressures right now. I'm almost positive he would have even more than Rashawn Gary, who leads the team right now. Get him back on the field, especially in passing situations, and look out, dude.
That's it. I mean, I think Devontae is going to tear it up. We've been trying to talk about it for the past 2 years. Like, oh, it's going to be a breakout this year for Devontae. Oh, it's going to be a breakout this year. I just hope it happens. He's got all the talent. He's got the speed to be running with the linebackers in practice. And I think that, Hafley kind of talked about when you have guys, they have to have their job down. So I think that Devontae White definitely has his job down. I think he just needs to be executing, as a whole. And I think that coming off the injury, we don't want to force him back, but let him tear it up if he's ready, and just let him eat.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go to the chat. Coach Lynn says, Evan Williams, best pick of the draft by far by any NFL team. It's hard to argue with that, man. Production, PFF grade, availability, accountability. He did it in training camp. He did it in preseason. Now he's doing it throughout the regular season. I mean, he's checked all boxes for sure. Mm-hmm. Carl K in the chat said, told my daughter, you learn more with your mouth closed than open. Amen to that. It's, the old saying, Emilio, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? You shut up and listen just a little bit.
Sometimes the quiet, quietest man in the room's got the most brains back there. You got to wait and listen.
Or as we always said, the loudest person in the room typically got the least amount to say. So Daryl in the chat says, so piecing all the right tools for the coaching staff other than the roster itself.
I think you could look at it like, the roster is the roster, and then you have a staff of coaches that are there daily. Like, you see them every day. That's who you're conversing with, and then you're taking those conversations and teaching it to the players. I think that's really big. You have a team within a team, and they all got to be on the same page.
Yeah, definitely. Chris Ann says, is Quay trending towards playing this week? I think it's safe to say he is. I would be surprised if he doesn't play. But again, it's going to come down to that final test of concussion protocol, right? It may come back and them go, nope, you got to wait another week. It's kind of out of their hands. Carl K says, if you get great guys at the top and they all work together, it tells you something about their maturity. It really does, because it's not about me, it's about us, right? It's absolutely huge. It's what breeds a strong culture in any organization, football, business, whatever. I heard a saying, something special happens when no one cares who gets the credit. That's the truth right there, man. Mm-hmm. Professor Cakes, keep Wilson on the field until/if his play dictates otherwise. His veteran presence and being assignment sure is also beneficial to Coop, allowing him to think less and play more free. I couldn't agree more, Professor Cakes.
Yeah, I think it's big. I mean, and he's still performing on special teams while he's doing all this. So,
yeah,
huge.
All right. So speaking of listening more and shutting up here, let's go listen to the great Brian Baldinger as he broke down a little bit of Jeff Hafley's defense. Baldy put here in the tweet, Packers' new DC, Jeff Hafley, is making a huge difference. Number one in takeaways, extremely good on third downs, and they gave CJ fits all afternoon. Next up, Jaguars. Let's see what a former NFL offensive lineman Brian Baldinger had to say about Jeff Hafley's defense here.
Are much improved on defense due to Jeff Hafley, the new defensive coordinator. Watch what they do here. Opening drive on 3rd and 4 against Houston with Rashawn Gary, number 52. Like, he's freelancing here. All he's doing is looking for an opening and getting a free hitter right here to CJ. Now he's just trying to get the ball out of his hands. Incompletion. They settled for a field goal. But all game long, they were excellent on 3rd and down. This is 3rd and 6 on the next drive. Watch what they do here. 6 up. And then here they go. They run this twist stunt here with Gary, but they bring Xavier McKinney off the edge. Safety blitz.
So pretty.
McKinney gets his first sack. All right? It's every 3rd down looked different to me. Here on 3rd and 9, they're going to come off the edge, but they're going to run a long limbo with Gary. So off the edge right here, they got a free hitter at CJ. He spins, and there's Rashawn Gary. When you watch this creativity, not only do the Packers lead the NFL in takeaways with 17, but the creativity on 3rd downs. Like, you watch this right here, and here he comes. Here comes Kingsley. Now here comes Rashawn Gary. All right? And really all CJ can do is throw the ball away. All right? Like he does right there. Now, here we go. 3rd and 6. Texans are up 19-14. They got to get a stop. Here comes a twist stunt. And here comes Eric Wilson free, and he gets to CJ Stroud. Twist stunt. All right? Getting the linebacker free. Now you get this right here. Wilson right here is going to pop from the middle linebacker spot to cover Dalton Schultz. Like, that's where the ball's going on 3rd down, and Wilson does the job. They don't ask him to do too much, but he goes from mugging the A-gap to defending that pass. So you look at this team right now, and they are excellent on 3rd downs. And they were in this game where C.J. Stroud was 4 of 13. They got off the field. They're making a difference.
4 of 13 on 3rd down. I love what he said there with Eric Wilson too. He's mugging the A-gap. He drops back to the curl essentially and works the curl to the flat, right? And when we say the flat, obviously they ran some kind of flood concept there where they had 3 targets on that side attacking low, mid, and up top. And he read it perfectly, breaks on Dalton Schultz. I guarantee you, then watching film this week, this was Bill Belichick 101 too. Who are they going to on 3rd downs when the game's on the line? Who are they going to? If you guys would go find Bill Belichick, A Football Life, 2-part series, you can find it on YouTube for free. They shows him breaking down tape and stuff. And I want to say, I can't remember the tight end's name, but it was a tight end for a team. That was the player that they went to on 3rd down. He said, I'm telling you, when they need a play, this is who they're going to get the play every single time. You could see that all over the tape with Dalton Schultz. You heard our boy Tim talk about it as we were getting ready that week. It's like, man, you watch out for Dalton Schultz. That's a guy they're going to try to lean on. It's not that Dalton Schultz is this amazing football player. It's just you could tell their scheme is set up that when they need a 3rd and 4, when they need a 3rd and 6, they're not looking to hit a home run. They're looking to work underneath, and Dalton Schultz is typically one of the first 2 or 3 targets. So.
Yeah.
You were specifically sending out texts here before we went live, Emilio, about the blitz. You want to hit on that real quick and tell everybody kind of what you were talking to with
honestly, it kind of, you saw it there a little bit, but so he was talking about fire zones, or they were asking him, what are you calling your blitzes? And he goes, well, are they blitzes? And he goes, well, I'm not sure. You bring in 4 people. He said, well, I would call that not a blitz then. He said it's not, he's not calling it a fire zone. He likes to call it a sim pressure when we're bringing, when you see 4 and it's not those same 4 that are coming each time. Only rushing 4, but only rushing 4 looking like a blitz, but it's never going to end up like a blitz. You have 4 on the line, you bring 1 or 2 up, you walk McKinney down, you could have 7, 8 on the line, and you're only bringing 4, we're not going to consider that a blitz. What he was calling them, and then also sending 4 with 1 unconventional. I think that's like telltale of McKinney's blitz, or even Rashawn's rush on CJ right there. When we're rushing 3 and you collapse one side and you're looping around, the 1 unconventional is the Rashawn loop, or McKinney coming in on that blitz. So he'll call 5-man, he'll call a fire zone if we're bringing 5 guys. 6-man pressure is man pressures, and that's terminology. And then 0 pressures, you got to cover all 4 or 3 eligibles. You're bringing 7 or 8. So just trying to clarify terminology. When we're bringing 4 and masking it, sim pressure, 5 is a fire zone because we're probably going to drop in and out of it. 6 would be man pressures, and then 0 is 7 or 8. But just cool to hear him just kind of tear it up and talk about it.
Yeah, and when we're talking fire zone blitzes, guys, what that essentially means, let's say you're going to bring 5 on this specific play and you mug the double A gap. Well, let's say you blitz both of those linebackers. Let's say you go Will Mike fire on that and you drop the left end out. That's called a fire zone blitz. You're firing a blitz and dropping someone that's normally rushing the quarterback back into coverage, okay? Last year, there was people pissing and moaning because Preston Smith was in coverage, and we said it all offseason. You're going to see it again. I turned on the Boston College tape against Florida State. It was the very first tape I watched of Jeff Hafley and his defense. And when I turned it on, I seen them play Jordan Travis, a very mobile quarterback, and both of his D tackles dropped back into coverage spine. And I went, oh, these fans are going to lose their mind. And we've seen it a little bit this year. We showed a play 2 or 3 games ago where both defensive linemen dropped back into coverage. It might have been Philly, actually.
Right. And you know what that does is when we're mugging or when you're up like that, even if you have Quay up, he said that'll hold the running back or hold the tight end in so that they're not going to run the route. You could be masking it all the way up. You got, they could keep the tight end and the running back in, have 7 in blocking, and still we could only bring 4. That is a win. He said that's when you get a hat up in coverage. That's when you get an extra man in the secondary. All those little things happen just because you faked bringing an extra guy, forcing them to keep an extra 1 in. And that's just huge.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So what I did here on NFL Pro, we went 2024 season. All right. We just went week 7. So this is just against the Houston Texans. And I pulled the blitz plays. Understand there may be some errors here. If there is, it's on NFL Pro. They usually do pretty good about sorting this out. So a blitz is bringing more than 4 rushers. Okay. So you should see at least 5 rushers on these plays. And it looks like against the Houston Texans, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plays where we actually blitz. And you guys going, no, that can't be right. We blitz more than that. No, we mugged the hell out of that line of scrimmage.
Sim pressures.
Exactly. We mugged the line of scrimmage and then dropped everybody out and still only brought 4. The Xavier McKinney safety blitz, we only rushed 3 other people and Xavier McKinney. So it wasn't technically a blitz, although we had everybody and their grandmama on the line of scrimmage ready to blitz the quarterback. So let's just kind of roll through them here real quick, and I'll try to talk through it here, and we'll take a look. So right here, they're just showing kind of a 4-man pressure right off the bat. Let's see what happens as the ball snapped, if it's actually a blitz. All right, so that went really, really quick. So it was more of kind of an RPO or a quick shot out. If we were to call it a blitz, who's blitzing on that play? There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's only 4 on that play, unless they considered Javon Bullard maybe potentially blitzing there.
Yeah, close.
Ball came out really, really early. All right, here's the Rashawn Gary pressure, and that's what we're talking about. Okay, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the line of scrimmage. You got overload left. That means 3 defensive linemen on the left side. We're counting Gary as a defensive lineman because that's his position. He plays left end, and he moves around. Enig is also standing up, but he's a defensive end. You got a linebacker mugging this B gap over here, okay? And B gap, what we mean is A in between the guard and the tackle, A between the center and the guard, B in between the guard and the tackle. This would technically be called a 4-eye technique, okay? If it was over the center, 0 tech, 2 tech over the guard, 4 tech over the tackle, inside shoulder of the 4 tech. We call that a 4-eye, okay? Let's roll it and see how this blitzed out. I already know how it blitzed out, to be honest with you. I think Wilson blitzes too, right? And he's going to jam in there and push the pocket inward. You're going to see these two guys collapse in, and Gary's going to loop all the way around. Kingsley Enagbare is going to play the inside shoulder of the quarterback because he knows Gary's looping around to take the outside. Watch how this just marries up beautifully here. 5-man rush. He thinks he's free now, and Gary's waiting on him. He was not expecting Gary to be there.
Roll that back one more time. It almost looked like Enagbare sat for a second. Didn't even rush. Kind of was sitting in a flat zone.
It's a good point. Yeah.
And then, all right, or maybe at least his objective was to bump your first inside receiver, if it's the tight end, whatever, bump him and then make your decision. That entire time, Rashawn's still looping.
Yeah. Remember, Hafley talked about that. He said sometimes our edge defenders, their goal is to knock people off their routes.
He engaged. He 100% engaged that guy.
Absolutely.
Right there.
That wasn't a chip. That was just Enagbare going, here, let me knock him off. It's all timing based. And again, right here, Stroud is not expecting Gary.
Nope.
By the time Stroud does this little spin move, right, he's not expecting – look where his eyes were at. They were over here, right, looking in this direction. He's expecting to roll out and have a free throwing lane. He's like, oh, crap. Here's the guy. Put it on loop. I love it.
That's right. He turned around and said, here's the guy coming after me. I need to get rid of it, man, because that's beautiful. You wasn't anything crazy. You brought one extra guy, and you – forced incomplete pass. Huge.
Yep. And for those of you on the pod, that's going to do it for hour 1. We'll see you on the other side for hour 2. We'll continue with the pass rush talk here. Appreciate y'all.